Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. When we claim that we have international law in place, and that's the first step. The second one, when we are the signatory of the UN Charter and we are members of the United Nations, and we say that we are not outside of the jurisdiction of the United Nations because we are signatories of the Charter, then we have to obey the, whatever we determined at the United Nations. So what we did is this. We recognize certain kind of countries and certain kind of governments that are in charge of those countries. And they fall under the, countries. Each country has its own independence, sovereignty, territorial sovereignty, air sovereignty, and so on. And that should be respected by each and every other country. And that's based on the reciprocity. You have to respect mine, I respect yours, and so on. Why? So you don't have a country just invading, like Russia, for instance, Ukraine, right? Right. So we have a little problem here. There is a U.S. general, not very bright, I might add. His name is Milley. And he went and he landed in a sovereign country, on the territory of a sovereign country, without that country's permission. Now, that country is Syria. Syria is an independent sovereign country, as is United States of America and Ukraine. Syria has a legitimate government recognized by the international community and by the United Nations, and that is Assad and his government, as is United States of America's government and Ukraine's government, right? Right. So that means they're equal. So that means, let's say, the Syrian army could not just go and land in the United States, That would be illegal. It would be contrary to the international law that the United States tell us each and every day that Russia should respect in Ukraine, which I agree. The problem is you can't do something that you ask everybody else to do or make everybody else do it, but you don't do it. And probably you know that the United States of America, when it was the ISIS uprising, they grew up, uprising, well, you remember that? I'm not going to go to its history. They metamorphosized from whatever other groups that eventually you go to the Mujahideens in Afghanistan. They were sponsored by, you know what I mean? So let's say we don't go, even if I did, but a little bit anyway. So you know what I mean. So then what the United States of America did after the Russians cleared the Middle East and Syria. They said, well, maybe it's time for us to get involved. Maybe we just land and get some oil. And we fight ISIS as well. And the forces that were trying to topple Assad in the meantime. Because the Americans were supporting those forces to topple the legitimate government of Assad, as they did with Yanukovych in 2014 in Ukraine. They helped a little bit with this and that, and reference Nuland, Victoria Nuland, Undersecretary of State of the United States of America. So then the Americans just decided to land without being invited, and not only, in Syria. Sovereign country, independent country, under the UN Charter, signatories, everything I said. But they forgot to leave. So first they landed illegally, they keep the troops over there, and they don't leave. And it's another thing. They landed, they fought ISIS, and now they protect. You can't make shit up, man. They protect the northeastern part of Syria, which is the richest oil field that Syria has. The Syrian people, the Syrian government, that is none of your business. You know what I mean? Like anybody else, is not their business what the other family is doing in their house. The same here. So the United States has about 1,000 military over there, troops and weapons, and they suck the oil from there and they go through Iraq, and from the Iraq, who the hell on what kind of market that oil goes. Now all this is illegal under the international law that the United States loves so much, and the European and the good countries and the good people that we are, somehow. Okay? So everything I said is illegal. Landing over there, not leaving, sucking the oil, and I don't know how long they're going to be staying over there. Now what happened? Milley, I think he's the chief of staff, the military chief of staff of the US Army. He went and landed over there, like it's his own neighborhood. Now, what do you think? What do you think? Should you take United States seriously again, which this is a clear example of violation of the international law, or not? So when you hear them lecturing everybody, and it's not only them, lecturing everybody that international law, the sovereignty of Ukraine must be defended, and we can't just allow a bully to go into another country, and just that's a neo-colonialism. And when you hear that, just go to the bathroom, take one, flush it, and so on, okay? Just do that if you can, but I don't think you will be able, because that repeats so often that you don't have enough poop to eliminate. So let's go and see what's going on here. This article comes from Sputnik, and it's from today, the 5th of March 2023. Damascus condemns U.S. general's illegal trip to U.S. base in Syria. So U.S. has a base in Syria somehow. Like the Syrians have like 50 bases in the United States of America. You know, reciprocity. This guy, all right? Poor guy. Not poor because he's really in charge of us. Now, the Syrian Foreign Ministry has condemned the recent trip of U.S. General Mark Milley to a U.S. base in northeastern Syria as a violation of the country's sovereignty, Syrian state news agency reported on Sunday. And I'm quoting, Syria strongly condemns the illegal visit of the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff to an illegal U.S. military base in northeastern Syria, end quote, the ministry said, calling it a flagrant violation of Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Did United Nations General Assembly came together and condemned this and made a law coalition to attack the invader, United States of America? I don't think so. So that tells you, when you hear about the violation of international law, it's based on power, not on those kinds of bullshit. Multiple U.S. media have reported about the unannounced trip that took place on Saturday. General Milley is said to have visited a logistics base in a Kurdish-held area to talk with troops and prepare recommendations for the Pentagon. The mission was allegedly in support of the U.S. Operation for Defeat, the Islamic State terror group banned in Russia. Okay, well, so they decided that they will go over there and they will clean house for these guys, but nothing happens anymore. And by the way, when these guys here were claiming that they won and they killed ISIS and they destroyed, we won, well, I suggest you look back in history, read articles for a few months, and they condemned the Russians going after ISIS in Syria. And by the way, Russia, the only country that were invited by the legitimate government of Syria to fight those idiots was Russia and Iran. That's it. Everybody else is over there overstaying its unissued visa. All right? So that's why it is with these guys. So they claim, the United States claims that that's a national threat, so we have to do something about it. But what if, let's say, China decides that, for instance, the riots here in America for social justice, there is national threat for China. They just decide that. And they just decide to come and drop a few, I don't know, military bases on the United States of America and never leave. Would that be okay? Ask the Americans and see what they're going to say. Are you kidding? They're going to laugh. Why? Because they know. But the thing is, this is the minimum requirement for a just person or a normal person, to put yourself in the other person's shoes. But if you ask these guys, they're all Christians. They're all Christians. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Not all, I'm exaggerating, but hey, we're a Judeo-Christian nation. Okay, it's kind of a weird combination. I'm telling you why. If you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, they have very different views on how to really act. And I'm going to give you one example that is very, very different. One is this. The Judaism says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That means if you punch me in the face, I'm going to punch you back, which Make sense? The other one is no. Don't do unto others what you don't want it to be done unto you. Or turn the other cheek. And the other one, love your enemy. So these things are not compatible. Don't try to do any mental gymnastics learned in the Sunday school, because really we can't be like that. I'm going to use Greek logic, and I'm not going to use Middle Eastern hanky-panky. Okay? So here we go. In this context, you have the US military being over there and doing what they do best. Neo-colonialism, like the Russians' mentality, which has how many bases outside of their territory? 2. One in Syria, and the other one is in what? Kazakhstan, around Baikul, whatever the bases where they send their space shuttles. That's it. I think it's another one now in, where is that? In Ukraine, obviously, now they have in Belarus. That's it. That's it. And see where the United States has, what, 740 or something around the globe? But hey, if you're the good country, there you have it. But the good country somehow violates the international law, but it's okay because they're good. That's why when you have people that you say they're good, like the governor, like the governors, like the people that you vote for them and you think they are good, well, you're in a very bad position, because first of all, they're human. And why would you consider that those guys are better than you, morally better than you, juster, more just than you? Why? You must be a very person if you think that way. After all, how do you think they got over there? By telling you I'm going to do this, and when they got over there, they did exactly that. If you take the campaign promises to get elected, that's how they got elected. By telling you I'm going to do A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah. If they say that, that means that they will do that, or at least fight for it. See, put that list to their achievements after 4 years, and you see how much that it's compatible. How many they hit. You know, see the dot goes here, and connect the dots and see. And then you can go to see other interests and see how many dots connect over there. So yeah, I'm very I don't know, disgusted. I mean, I'm not disgusted anymore. I've been disgusted when I first figured things out, how these guys are just with impunity bombard Yugoslavia without the UN approval, international law. And then they ask Russians, hey, what are you doing in Ukraine? When you did that in Ukraine, when you, in Libya, you did that in Iraq, you did it in Afghanistan, you did it in Yugoslavia, and you say, hey, you have an imperialistic mindset. Do you own a mirror? Do you remember anything besides the past year or something? Not even that. Look at Syria. That's a continuous situation. They've been over there for what? For years already, before Russia started beating the Ukrainians or fighting NATO over there in Ukraine. Anyway, you can, if you want, find all kind of justifications. But remember, what you consider to be a personal threat, that means it allows me to have the same feelings. So if you think that, let's say, these glasses are a threat to you, well, or I'm a threat to you, then I have the same right to say that you are a threat to me. Or if I, it's just, if we want to be just. Remember, there's at least two basic requirements to be just. One, it's the law or the rule is across the board. We all follow it. And the other way to figure out, you put yourself at the receiving end of the law and see if you think that the law functions justly when you are at the when you get it, not when you pump, when you get it, okay? Then you see if you like it. Now, obviously, there's some differences here because I was talking about male. I didn't include females here. Just as a disclaimer, asterisk. All right, fine print. No, okay. So, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.